What's up, Shady Sports Network? I'm here with an extremely legendary guest, two-time Super Bowl champion, Rob Ninkovich. Rob,
Two-time. What's up, baby? How we doing?
How you doing?
Good to see you.
Excited to have you on. Got a lot to talk about. Let's get right into it. So, you have a podcast of your own. And Yesterday you filmed an episode with Rob Gronkowski, in my opinion, the greatest tight end of all time. How did the arm feel? 62 yards.
My arm, I hit it 57 yards. My arm is sore. Gronk threw 62 or 63 yards. And Gronk, being Gronk in pure Rob fashion, said, I've never tried to throw football this far. And he's just able to throw the ball farther than me. So I would just like to say, before everyone, because I said before I tried this that I could throw the ball 60 plus. I think I still got it. The wind was a little windy out there, so I'm going to give it another try in a couple of weeks. But I am definitely sore, and I need a week to just get it back. And my wife was making fun of me. She's like, "You're just getting old, Rob." She's like, "You don't work out like that anymore." So we had a good episode. It was fun. Talked a bunch about Rob's career. It's called the Dan and Ninko Show. Check it out. We talked about Rob's career, some of his injuries, his high school career, college. We covered the Patriots a little bit. So it was a fun episode. So we had a great time. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be sitting next to you, my friend. And let's dive into all the topics. What do you want to talk about? I'm ready.
So I guess the first thing right off the bat is Matthew Judon.
Judon. Yeah, we talked about that on the pod. So this is what me and Rob are saying. Bill always has this saying, and he says it every single year, you're all in or you're all out. And basically what that means is if you're going to be here and you're going to participate in any fashion, you are all in. So if you're healthy, you're at every practice, you're doing every rep, you're on first team, you're putting the pads on, and there's really no there was never any veteran days or taking it easy. I mean, we had Rob Gronkowski, the greatest tight end of all time, and he didn't have any, easing into training camp. So, the Patriots and Judon came out and said, oh, this is the process. I'm going to be 31 years old. We're just easing myself in. I don't think that's the case. I think he's looking for a different contract, a new contract, which this will be the first time ever that Bill has allowed a player to be there, but not fully into every practice and not participating. There's no injury there unless we don't know about, there's something we don't know about. So, for me, it's just a little odd. It's a little weird considering he doesn't have just 1 year. He has 2 years left on our contract. I know he's been very productive. I know he's been the best defender, but at the same time, there's a lot of guys on the roster that are young. They're looking at the veteran guy in a sense of what does he do every day? How does he work? So I think it could send a bad message at the end of the day if he's not fully participating in training camp. And look, they don't hit each other. They don't hit each other anymore. They put pads on twice in 8 days. That's insane to me. Back in the day when I was playing, we put pads on every day. We hit every day. And, now these guys wear those big, silly things on their head and they barely touch each other. I understand it's to try and prevent head trauma. But I think we've also seen a lot of injuries in the start of these training camps around the NFL. There's been a lot of ACL, Achilles, soft tissue. If your body's not ready to hit and you don't have proper conditioning for contact, something's going to break. And I think we've seen that so far.
So I agree with everything you said, and I also think it would have helped Matthew Judon's case if he was able to recruit free agents like he said he is to New England.
Yeah, well, they haven't had much luck. I think a lot of that too, there's more of the contract stuff that plays into it. OBJ, for example, goes to the Ravens. We're not gonna pay him $14 million. I think he got. That's just that's a lot of money for a guy that's coming off his second ACL. That's an older veteran. So you're trying to find value with a good veteran, but also not, potentially putting yourself in a bad spot with contracts and guaranteed money. So, Dalvin Cook, for example, some of these big name guys, Zeke, they're on the backside. And we all know running backs, they have a short shelf life. They're not going to play 10 plus years anymore. It's just the way it is. I mean, Sony Michel just retired. I mean, he was just drafted here, 5 years ago? So, and his career's over, which is kind of sad. And I understand guys are trying to make as much money as they can in the short amount of time that they have to play. But the team's trying to be as economically smart when it comes to these contracts for veterans.
I think money is important. Passion is important too. One of those guys that I feel like is a huge question mark for the Patriots this year is Jack Jones. Do you see him back?
Yeah. Again, I think that there's more that the team understands about a player than anyone outside of the building, and they obviously have off-season work. They have mini camps, they have OTAs, they have training camp, they have regular season practices, they have all these things that they film. And every single day, I swear, every single day, they have cameras on every single player, and they have your number by year, and they're evaluating you not only just on your football skills, but how you look running. And I think that's just the way it is. It's like herding cattle. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's new one in, old one out, and it doesn't matter. So that's the one aspect of the game that I hated. Just that you can definitely get a feel for that. And we'll see. I don't know, what they're going to do with Jones, but I think that there's a couple things with the Patriots this season that are going to be very, very vital. Number one being the defense has to be really good. Like, I think they don't have a choice. They have to be good. Offensive line has to be really good. And through camp right now, I think that's a point of big question mark. Is the offensive line good enough? And how does Mac bounce back? All these things. You were at practice the other day, and every good team right now, I'd say this, every playoff team, they have a couple things in common. Number one being quarterback. Number two being solid offensive line. Because I don't care who you are. If you're a great quarterback, you saw it with Patrick Mahomes. The year that they got beat, they had a bad offensive line. Where they do the offseason, they go sign Tooney. They go sign all these guys. And then they rebuild that thing. And then after that, they win a Super Bowl. So quarterback, offensive line, those are going to be huge this season for the Patriots.
So the big news coming out of camp is that Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi are in a
competition. It's open. It's open, Chris. Come on, baby. It's an open competition. Everyone's going to talk, and they're here. I'll give you another example of what Bill Belichick says in every single training camp. I'll paint this picture for you. You're sitting in a room, and it's a big auditorium with all the chairs look like this, real comfortable and big for big guys that play football. And there's Bill Belichick up at a podium, and he's standing at that podium, and he looks like a judge with a gavel, right? And it's his fist. And every time he hits that thing, it just echoes in the room. And he always talks about put the team first, talks about that all the time. And then he does this. He hits that thing. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're from. I don't care your draft status. I don't care your contract status. If you're here to compete, we are going to give the best player the opportunity to play. So with that being said, if Zappi comes out of this thing, out of training camp, and today I read the reports, Mac looked really good. Mac looked great, but we still got a long way to go. But I do believe that, say, for example, Mac just looked bad, they would be a competition. And I think a lot of, fans of Mac, which understand, he's a great player and he's got a great pedigree and he's a, draft pick here, high draft pick, and everyone loved him his rookie year, had a down year last year. But I think it's definitely competition just based on how Bill explains it to the team. So I still think Mac's the guy. I think he's the number one quarterback. He's the guy. But if he was better, I wouldn't put it past Bill to name him the starter if he was better. I'm not saying he's better, but that's the way Bill is. He's very much so like competition, and the best man gets the job. So Mac's your starting quarterback. Don't worry about it, Krish.
Well, I look at it this way, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you have 3 preseason games. You have 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
First game, you start Zappy all the way. And then you go McSorley, which don't even get me started. How do they only have 3 quarterbacks on the roster? But, you start Zappy all the way. Second game, you work Mac in. Max plays a half, Zappy plays a half.
Mm-hmm.
And then third game, Mac plays 3 quarters, Zappy plays maybe a quarter. So after all that, the dust settles. What do you think if Zappy outplays Mac per se, right? Say Zappy goes out there, he has a wonderful preseason.
Yep.
I'm talking like Jarrett Stidham preseason. Do you think Zappy can start in week 1?
So here's the thing about preseason, that there are a few things that a coach, they evaluate the player based on, number one, how you perform, but number 2, how you perform against what level of competition. So I think back to when I was younger and I was playing, if I was in the preseason game, and if you are a starting caliber player and you are a good football player, if you play against a non-starting caliber competition, you need to make them look absolutely stupid and silly. So if I was going against a tackle who is not a starting tackle, he was a backup or didn't even deserve to be on a roster, I would probably have 3 to 5 sacks on him. Like, that's no joke. Like, that's how your mentality is. So you can have a backup quarterback. You say you have your starter out there with the 1s and they look, well, okay. And then the starter stays out there and the 2s come in and then they just light them up. It's hard to evaluate. That's why I think coaches, what they do a lot of is they're evaluating practices. They're evaluating understanding of the offense and the system. And then they also put in place in practice certain situations to see how players respond. So say, for example, defensively, we used to have these live and dead tags, which a live tag is based on the offensive system and the offensive alignment. We would come in and out of different coverages. So a live tag, say we're in a 2-3 coverage. If it's 2x2, if there's 2 guys on each side, we're playing 2. If it's 3x1, we're playing 3. So if it motioned over to 3x1, we check 3-3-3. If it motions back to 2x2, we go back to cover 2, which was hands. Like if you do this, hands, 2-2-2. So coaches did that on purpose. They would have somebody in there knowing that it's going to motion and come back to see if the middle linebacker or the outside backer could communicate, like, this is what's happening. Let's get on the same page and let's do it. So it's even more intense with the offensive system because, maybe there's a run play and they're supposed to run away from strength. And if you look at the defense, a safety rotates or they shift or they move. And then now where they're running, they got to alert. Roger, let's go right. Let's not go left. That's what they want to see. And I think Mac, between the ears, is probably one of the smartest quarterbacks that they've had since Tom. So I think that he's 100% as far as, the brains. I think he's probably the number 1. And Zappy, I'm not saying he's not a smart guy, but Mac is very intelligent when it comes to the playbook.
So last thing on this whole quarterback controversy. Now I kind of acknowledge it now, but Zappy goes out, has a great preseason. Belichick named Zappy started week 1. Do you see a situation where they part ways with Mac?
No, they wouldn't do that because they would try to get as much equity in the player. So if a team is looking to trade a player and they don't get what they feel is the value from that trade, they'll just keep the player, right? The last case scenario is cutting somebody. If Mac isn't the starter, it would be a big story, but they would hold on to him. They would keep him, especially being a first-round pick.
I can see that. First-round picks have a lot of pressure.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to cut him because he had a lot of and then the money comes into play. You pay a first-rounder a certain amount of guaranteed dollars. You're not going to pay someone to paint this house and then just fire them, halfway into it. You're going to make sure that they stick around. So
kind of transitioning now to your broadcasting career with ESPN, which
yep.
I find so cool.
I'm not going to be back with ESPN. So ESPN, I was part of that 20, around 21 or 22 people that they either let go or didn't renew their contract. So my contract is up and I won't be back, which I had a great time. I learned a lot in my 4 years there, but you definitely have certain expectations that you have when you go into that particular job and work environment. And there's definitely some surprises there that I didn't think would be that case, because I'll put it this way. When you're a professional athlete, you have probably the most thorough preparation, the thorough execution, the thorough timing. When I got into the media side of stuff, they'd be like, hey, 1 o'clock hit. I'd be there at 12:55, and they don't get on. They're late. I'm like, what the heck? It's like 1:10. Like I've had professionals running outside to get into the studio because they're late. Like that doesn't happen in the NFL. You're not late. If you're late, you're fined a lot of money. So I just feel like it's not nobody takes the seriousness like the professional football team or the Patriots did, because that's what I know the best. The Patriots were like the most prep that I've ever been involved in. And then I went to the next thing thinking it would be similar, and it wasn't at all.
I see what you're saying in terms of media and being professional. So with you, take me through a day of being on ESPN.
Okay, so typically this last 2 years I was in New York City for my shows, which me personally, I'm not a New York person. I don't like New York, and no offense to anyone from New York if you're watching this. I don't like rats. I'm not a big rat guy. I don't like subways. No, not. I like space. I like grass. I like to park my car in a nice open area to where it doesn't get dented. That's not New York. New York is fast, stinky, rats, no space, no grass, dog pee-pee and poo-poo everywhere. So it wasn't my thing, but I would take the train on Wednesdays. I would take the Excella out of Providence. I would go into New York. I'd get there at about 8 o'clock. I'd jump on an Uber. I'd get to the hotel. I'd have some emails to go through for ESPN. And then after that, I would do a production meeting on the phone. We got a phone call right now. Who is that?
I have no idea.
It's okay. So we have a 5:30 production meeting. So I'd get up early, get myself ready to go to the production meeting, go over the shows and what we were going to talk about. So you have your rundown. And then Mike Greenberg was going to be the host. He would be in there, and we're talking about everything for the 2 hours that we're going to go through. And then after that, you get a whole rundown. And then when you get your rundown, you kind of have an idea of what time slot you're going to go through and what you're going to hit. And what you said in your production meeting is down there on paper. So then I would have it printed out, and I would just make notes. Like if I'm going to talk about the Patriots, if I'm going to talk about the Jets, if I'm going to talk about Kansas City, I would have notes underneath it, like Mahomes or Dak, or, can't throw this many interceptions the last so many weeks. And then after that, I would do the show. I'd either have maybe a 12 o'clock Sports Center hit or a 1 o'clock Sports Center hit or This Just In, which there was another show that I would do, and that was from 2 to 3. So that had its own production thing. So you go through your emails and you know your production times, you know your person you're speaking to. You go through everything, and I'll definitely miss that because I love being involved. I love being involved in talking ball because I do miss playing football. So it keeps you involved in the game, and you're not only talking about one team, you're listening to people talk about every team. So we'll see what happens. I'm not going to be back this year, and I might do some local stuff. I'm going to continue the Dan and Nico show. We're going to do more with that, I do believe, and we'll see. This is my 7th year out, so I'm getting old. I'm getting old there, Chris. 39 years old, getting a little gray here. So, we'll see what the future has in store. But I always tell people this: if I'm ever speaking to a group and I talk about, working hard and perseverance, it doesn't matter what happens currently. You might lose your job, you might get a promotion. It's all based on how you react to that. So if you do have say you get a new job, you got to have the same work ethic. You got to work hard. You got to be prepared. You got to walk in the room and have confidence. If you don't, it's never going to work out. So for me, the next thing when it pops up, I'll be ready to go. And if it's TV, I'll be good at it. If it's something else, if it's business, which I own a dealership in New Hampshire. It's called Mom's Jericho. We sell all toys, motorcycles, ATVs, snowmobiles. Mom's has 12 dealerships around the New England area. They're the largest dealer in New England of power sports. So that's something else that I love. I love cars. So I have a bunch of cars. I restore them. I got an old one out there right now. I love to work on those. So I love the market. So I like watching stocks. I'm heavily in the stocks. So I love buying and selling and gambling like yourself, Chris. You like doing a little gambling. So I got 3 kids. They keep me busy. I got to go to sports, flag football, soccer, t-ball. So life is crazy. You never know what's going to happen. You never know when you're going to have that curveball or the changeup. It's just how you react to it. So for me, I'm excited for the future and expanding everything that I'm doing.
Awesome, man. I cannot wait to see your next big move. But we have to talk about your final goodbye on ESPN.
I know, yeah. So this is the thing when the hard part about being at home, because my last day was in my house. So what we do with the setup is I have to call into TVU, like you have to call a hub. They hook up your system. So there's a little delay there. And then you have somebody in your ear. So I have to call another person with your IFB. So they're in your ear. And then you're literally listening to the show, looking at a blank screen. So you don't even see you're only looking at yourself. So you're not looking at anybody else. So, and then you have a Zoom return, which shows you the actual show, but there's like a 2-second delay, right? So when you have somebody in your ear, they're telling you, okay, 30 seconds, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So we did a little like, hey, we're going to do a little send off at the end. I was saying thank you to everybody. And then TV is like a hard out. Like if it's a 8 to 10 show at 10 o'clock, it's right to the next show. It's the first day. So at the end, I said, and Ninko, and I said, and then they cut the first day. I said, Nico out. And I just waved. So that's the way it is. Like we've had that happen before. I didn't even think it was a big deal. Like literally when it happened, I'm like, all right, see you later. Like no big deal. There was a couple articles written about it. Like it was this crazy thing. I didn't even care about. I was just like, all right, like no big deal. I got cut off. Like it was my last show. I don't care. I don't care. So then I did NFL Live, and then I just said, see you later. Take care, everybody. That's it. So that's the hard part, because when you have the person in your ear, there's always a delay, always a little delay, because you have like a 1.5 second lag on your screens. So they said 10, 9, 8, but that's a 1.5 second delay to what you're actually seeing on television. So, that is what it is, man. Things happen. You just keep moving forward. And I have a feeling that I'll be back on TV at some point. So it wasn't my final, see all, and at the end of the day, I'm still breathing. So we're all here enjoying life, and we're sitting here next to you doing this pod, and I'm enjoying this right now. And the future, and I really think that when I talk to groups of kids and I talk about your future and planning your future, I always had this vision of what I was going to do, right? And if you really work at it and you put all your effort into it, even if it doesn't work out, it's always going to make you better. So for me, I had this vision of playing football. It didn't work out for my first few years. I got hurt. I had surgeries. I got cut. It sucked. But then I finally made it. I was here, had a great career, won Super Bowls, went into the TV thing. Everything was going great. But there's always going to be that bump. And it's how do you respond to the bumps? How do you respond? How do you react to those things? Some people, they go one way. For me, I always, if you have an even keel and you're even, in confidence in yourself, then you're just ready for the next thing. So I'm ready for the next thing, whatever that is. When it pops up, it pops up. And if it doesn't pop up, I'm going to keep pushing and keep doing all the stuff that I enjoy doing.
For sure. So now transitioning to your pro career.
Yes.
A lot of people forget that you were drafted by the New Orleans Saints.
Yes.
How was that getting into the NFL?
So that was a true blessing. Really, honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. And I was drafted to the Saints. I didn't want to go to the Saints. I didn't think I was going to the Saints. I actually thought I was going to New England, which it was a great thing for me to get drafted to the Saints because I met my wife, number one. We've been together 17 years now, almost 18. We got 3 kids. We've been married 11 years. That's truly the best thing that ever happened to me was me going to New Orleans. And then I got hurt. I tore my ACL in the Superdome opening game against Atlanta. It was a big comeback game. The first Superdome game after Katrina. It's a big time deal. There was a block punt that block punt heard around the world with Steve Gleason, a good friend of mine, who unfortunately has ALS, and he's been battling that for the last 10 years now. He was young when he was diagnosed. So he is one of the biggest motivators in my life for me, considering the guy had everything, was a great athlete. And then now, is struck with this terrible disease that you can't even move your fingers and you can't move anything. But he just attacked that with grace, and he started the Steve Gleason Foundation, and he's been doing great things, and they, invest back into helping people with technology. So Steve's, talks with his eyes and speaks with his eyes now. And then he tries to give that to other people that don't have the funding to try to have that technology with ALS. So I was on the block punt with him, and it was an incredible day. And then I got hurt. When I got hurt, that was kind of like the rug being swept out from underneath my feet. Couldn't get back from it. I came back, but I wasn't myself. Then I hurt my other knee. So then they cut me. Then I went to Miami. I got cut there. I went back to New Orleans. I got cut again. And then I came here. And then when I got here, I was actually against the wall. My back was against the wall. And I said to myself, I'm just going to go out here and win every day. And I'm going to win today. And if I do that, I'm not going to worry about yesterday. I'm going to always continue to work on the next day and the next day. And then slowly but surely, I made the team. And then I was on the roster. And then I said to myself, I'm just going to keep going here and see if that turns into a starting role. And then it did. So, there was a moment where Bill would really load your plate up. And I always talk about this, and I've said it before on ESPN. I call it the paper plate analogy. You know what that is, the paper plate analogy? I'm going to explain that. So you go get a paper plate, just a regular plate, right? One of them flimsy ones, okay? You go to the buffet. Say you have a family meal, you have a family cookout, right? You put 1 scoop of potato salad on one side of that plate, right? You got to hold that plate, okay? Then you put a couple, pieces of chicken on there, right? Then that plate starts to get a little flimsy. Then you put a little salad, then you put some pasta on that thing. You got to hold it with 2 hands or it's going to fall apart. That's what careers are kind of like, football careers. Some people can handle 1 scoop. It's like that plate. They can handle it. It's easy. But they can't handle 2 or 3 or 4. Or you can put everything on that plate, and it's one of them strong ones, right? And it's got the little dividers in it, and it's cardboard, and you can hold it at the end and it doesn't fall apart. Some people are built that way. You can load the plate with as much stuff as you want, and they never fail. They never crack. That's what Bill does. He'll load somebody up. He'll give them a big, job, or let's see if he can do this. Let's see if he can do this and that. Let's see if he can do kickoff return, punt return, and play every snap on defense. So after 1 year, I did everything. He came to me. He goes, "Hey, just want to say you did a great job this year. You had a lot on your plate, and you were able to deal with it." So from that point on, Bill never really yelled after that to me. Like he would say, "Come on, Rob, what are we doing?" He would say that, but before that, he used to yell like, "What that? I can't say it on this, but what are you doing? Rob this, Rob that." But then after a certain point where you knew you were making plays, he could count on you, and you were reliable, he never really yelled. He would be like, "Oh, geez, Rob, what are we doing?" It would be that, but it would never be embarrassing. So that's the paper plate analogy, and it works in every aspect of life. So if you're, a new job, any job you have, certain people are really good at 1 thing. Some people are good at 2 things. Rare people are good at 3 or 4 things at the same time. And as a boss or a business owner, your job is to figure out who can do the best with 1 thing, 2 things, 3 things. And then those people that can do multiple things, those are usually the ones that climb the ladder and are the CEOs or the future business owners, because they're able to dissect and manage and do all the things they have to do to be successful.
100%. So I think this will be a great time to insert a question from my producer.
Okay.
He's from Mile High. He asked, what your career really started to take off when you were with the Patriots? What about that scheme do you feel like fit your play style?
Well, we had multiple schemes, and we were more so a 52 defense, and I was the Sam, so I would go to the tight end. Then we went to a 43 defense where I was just a defensive end. Then we went to a 34 where I was an outside linebacker. And in all those schemes, I was interchangeable. So the best thing and the most advanced thing about Bill's system is he wants guys that can move in different pieces. So when we were winning Super Bowls and we had Hightower and Jamie and Mayo and me and Dev and Chung, some of these ballers and Revis and, all these guys that are really good, we all knew each other's roles. So I knew the inside linebackers' roles. He knew my role. I knew the D end. I knew everything. So what we would do is we would have these swap coverages where I would take the different linebackers' job. He would take my role. And when you do that on the fly, it's really hard for an offense to figure out what you are. And, you might hear mic'd up. You might hear a quarterback say 51's the mic or 50's the mic. They're setting their protections based on who they think are the particular player in each and every. So if they know that I am the Mike or I'm the Sam on every play, it helps the center, it helps the offensive line set where they're going to protect. When you're able to interchange that and they go the wrong way, you get linebackers on running backs, which is a win every time. Or they mess it up and the running back goes the wrong way and the line's the wrong way and you get wide open, shots at the quarterback. That's the special thing about when you have a veteran group. The Patriots, when I was there, we had a good veteran group and I was able to learn all the different positions, be comfortable in that scheme, and we were a good football team. I mean, the year that we beat Seattle, That was a crazy game, but we had a really, really good football team that year.
So, I mean, winning all those Super Bowls, what goes into being a Super Bowl champion?
Well, I talked about it before. Number one, having a good quarterback. So we had Tom, and Tom is the best of all time. We had a great offensive line. That's number two. We really the front. And we had some weapons. You got Rob Gronkowski as your tight end. You got Julian Edelman as your slot. You got Danny Amendola. You got all these key guys. And then you got James White out of the backfield, like Eric Blunt running the rock. Like all those guys, really coming together. And you can have superstar teams filled with talent. And I think this is where the Jets are right now. You can have a tremendously talented team on paper, but they could potentially not gel, and they could potentially not become a good team depending on how those different characters come together. So it's like a foundation of a house. And Bill would always talk about you're building your foundation to build your house to be strong and to weather any storm. You put a house on just dirt and you don't have a good foundation, eventually things are going to start moving a little bit, and a big storm might blow that thing away. Your foundation is what creates your team, which when you're hitting a rough patch, and every team's going to have a hard spot in the season, going to deal with an injury that you're not ready for. Somebody's going to get hurt that you didn't expect to get hurt. That's not going to be there. How do you deal with it? Is the guy behind him ready to go? Is the team are they mentally strong enough to deal with that? That's all stuff that comes into mind when you have a Super Bowl team. So, I think back on those teams, they're special. They're a special team. So, this year we'll see which team can go and be a special football team.
And you talk about being mentally strong.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I felt like the Seattle Seahawks lacked when playing you guys in the Super Bowl. Not being able to trust Marshawn Lynch to run the ball.
Well, I have a couple ideas on how that happens. And Marshawn Lynch, to give him the football, I probably don't have that Super Bowl ring, right? There's a lot of ego that goes into football. Ego when it comes to coaches, when it comes to them trying to be head coaches, because the majority of offensive coordinators who become head coaches have really good offensive coordinator statistics. So in the Seattle game, if Russell Wilson hits that back foot and throws a touchdown pass for them to go up and they win, Russell Wilson's the MVP. OC's the next smartest guy, the guru that gets the next head job. All that stuff goes into play. If they hand the football off, number one, it's not sexy. They don't love to run the football in. Marshawn Lynch is the MVP, 100%. If Marshawn Lynch runs that ball in, he is the MVP of that game and not Russell Wilson. So there's some weird stuff that goes into stuff when they're calling these plays. And I honestly think that the OC wanted Russell Wilson to throw a touchdown pass in that moment, which would have set him up to be the MVP, would have set up the OC to be all the – you called that play, and it went the other way. And guess what? Malcolm came in there, bang, intercepted that ball. It went right over my head, right here. And it was amazing. Best moment of my life right there. Nope. Second best, nope, third, fourth best moment of my life. One being my daughter, then my two sons, then winning that Super Bowl. Fourth best moment of my life.
You put the Super Bowl over getting married.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
All right, so no, fifth is getting married. That was a good time, but it wasn't like winning a Super Bowl.
Do you think a read option play was in their heads at all?
Well, I think they thought about that, but there was a play on 3rd and 1 where they tried to do that, and they gave it to Lynch, and I had a TFL, which in that game, not a lot of people understood that. We talk about preparation. We knew when because of watching tape. When Russell Wilson had his heel flattened to the ground, if both heels were flattened to the ground in the gun, it was a run every time. If he had his right foot and heel up just a little bit, if you saw space in his heel, he was dropping back and passing. So every time his heels were on the ground, I was going like it's run. And I was able to make a couple big plays. And then when the heel was up, we knew it was passed. So that was a big thing. I think when we stopped them on 3rd and 1, it was in their head, like maybe we don't run that play again. And then they also were Hightower made a great tackle before the play of the interception. So hail high, Hightower.
So as a young aspiring coach myself, right? Watching film is so important, and it honestly is what separates college athletes from pro athletes.
Yeah.
How do you watch film in the NFL?
Well, you have to look at, there's different ways to watch film. You know, if you're going to be a coach, and I asked Bill this one time, you know, I said, what's the biggest difference between a player and a coach? And he said, Rob, players see the game from the field. They see it. For me, I see the outside looking in. I see the tackle. I see the quarterback. I see the running back. I see things this way. A coach has to see it from a blimp above. They're looking down, and they have to understand everything that's going on. So for me, I would watch the person I was going against. That was huge. Hands was a big thing. And scheme, and then alignments. So if a running back was wide, he was probably getting out. If he was tight, he was probably running inside. You know, if a tight end was off the ball on the backside and looking at me, he's probably flashing or coming back. If elephants on parade, that's a term. If the offensive linemen turn their back and they're not getting downfield, that means it's a pass. So when you see all the jerseys and they're running, elephants on parade, look for a boot, look for something coming back, hit somebody, all that stuff. The more you prepare on tape during the week, the faster that you can play on Sundays. So that's why, you know, being prepared and understanding what happens before it happens, you just react. So football, you know, there's something to be said about just going out there and playing fast. So there's 2 types of ways you can play ball. You can just go out there and you react. And there's some teams that are built on just athleticism. We just have guys that are athletes. We don't care about them knowing defense. Just go make the play. Just go react to the ball. And then you have guys that might, like myself, I wasn't the fastest guy. I was strong, and I knew how to play with leverage, and I was very prepared, and I knew where to go. So if I was a coach, I love guys pinning their ears back. Make a mistake, make it 110 miles an hour. If you miss it, make another one, make up for it. And I think that's, you know, to me, the essence of football is playing fast, playing free, and not being, I call it paralysis by overanalysis. When you're trying to detect what's this, what's that, you slow down a little bit. Just go. That's it. That's all on defense. Fast.
Could we see you coaching anytime soon?
I would, you know, I have some high school coaching opportunities, the hardest part about coaching for me is my kids. I wouldn't be able to see my kids. And, you know, it's a very, very big commitment to be a coach, to try and be a head coach. It's an unbelievable commitment. And I think the game itself, I love the game. And I love everything about it, but I only have a certain amount of time with my kids until they're gone, and then I don't have it back. So I'm really trying to enjoy myself. And then once my kids are older, maybe I'll jump into coaching.
For sure. I would love to see you out there, you know, coaching the Dolphins or Patriots or anyone.
We'll see. Time will tell.
So, kind of want to touch on your college career a little bit before we look back at the pros. You went to Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
Purdue is a great academically advanced school. People sleep on the academics of Purdue.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
What led you to Purdue?
Well, Joe Tiller was the head coach there, and they very much so liked I was basically the first tweener. So I was the first like 6'2" to 6'3", 250-pound defensive end. Teams were starting to do that with the smaller, faster guys, but previously a defensive end was 6'5", 290, 300, big. So Purdue was that first school, bringing in these smaller guys, Roosevelt Colvin, Chike O'Keefer, these Sean Phillips, Ray Edwards, Anthony Spencer, Ryan Kerrigan, myself, George Karlaftis, who was just drafted Kansas City. These guys that are athletic but can do a lot of different things. So I wanted to go to Purdue. I knew it was a very tough school when it comes to academics. And I figured that out quick because it was not easy. But, like I said before, got to push yourself. You got to challenge yourself, and you got to put yourself in a position of uncomfortable, spots. I was uncomfortable there the whole time, but I loved it because it pushed me into being a really good football player and a good student. So I love my time at Purdue. I love Purdue. It's a great school. Very, very, very good engineering school. I'm not an engineer. I wish I could be, but the math class there is like crazy.
So transitioning back to the pros now.
Sorry, my train's going off. My choo-choo train. We're talking Purdue. The train's going off.
So a lot of people, I feel like, notice the NFL, and it's a lot of rigor and it's a lot of mental work. But I really want to go through a Monday through Friday full NFL schedule.
Okay, so Monday, that's simple. Okay, after the game, you go in Monday morning, you run. So you usually do some striders, you work out. So you're trying to work out that soreness. You'll have a team meeting, then you'll have a defensive meeting or offensive meeting, wherever side you're on. You'll go through the tape. So you'll review the tape, you go through the grading, you go through that process. Tuesdays is usually your day off, but expected to still kind of come in and understand who you're playing, know your opponent, study your opponent on your day off. A funny story about that. My first year in New England, we're playing Buffalo week 1. It's Wednesday. And on Wednesday, that is your early down install. So that's your first, second down, and that's your personnel day. So you're trying to learn the other team. Bill sometimes will call people out and ask questions in front of the whole team. Well, this particular day, he asked me, "Hey, Rob, can you tell me who the starting tight end is and all the other tight ends that play for the Buffalo Bills?" Well, I didn't study him up and I didn't know it. So I looked down at my book to look, and he said, "Close your book." Close my book. I'm like, "Coach, I don't know." He's like, "You don't know. You don't know who you're going to be going against." Well, that's a big problem. So he's like, "I expect you to know every tight end in the NFL on every team we play for the rest of the year. And you better know their shoe size." So from that moment on, I knew every tight end, and I knew every game we were playing. I knew the tight ends like the back of my hand, where they were from, what their strengths were, their weaknesses, where they went to high school, what they went to college, what they were they a blocking tight end, were they running, like a receiving type tight end. So from that point on, he would call me out. I'd go down the list like nothing, and I knew it for the rest of my career. But Wednesdays is like a heavy install day for early downs. You work out on Wednesday, so you might be there Wednesday probably 6 to 5. 5 p.m., get home 6 o'clock, go to bed. Thursdays is usually kind of like a third down, early down, third down, third plus, 10 plus. Fridays is a red zone day. So you'll do like special teams throughout Wednesday to Friday. Fridays is a red zone goal line. So you work on red zone goal line. Saturdays is a walkthrough. So you go out, you walk through. You're either in a hotel that night or you're traveling to wherever you're going, more walkthroughs. 8 o'clock meeting on the day before, walkthroughs after, 11 o'clock bed check. Either home or away, you always had, you never could sleep at home. So either in a hotel away or a hotel here. And then Sundays, depending on if it was a 1 o'clock game or a 4 o'clock game or 8 o'clock game, you come into the stadium 3 hours before, and you have to check in 3 hours before to know you're in the building.
That's so much, but
yeah. Well, you do that 16 weeks, then you do it, 20 something weeks, because you got the preseason, regular season, playoffs, so it's rigorous.
So, coming up on my last couple of questions here. Obviously, the NFL is the biggest sport in the world.
Yeah.
Obviously, people say soccer, but, I say NFL.
It's growing. Right?
So the fan relationship with players, it's hard to have a relationship when you have that many fans. How were you able to maintain a relationship with the fans?
Well, I think that things are, technology-wise, has changed dramatically since my first year in the NFL to my last year in the NFL. We didn't have the apps and the Instagrams and all the things that give fans more access to players. So as my career progressed, I got an Instagram account. I got all these different things where you can see your fan base and you can interact. And then you also do your appearances. You do, different events where you're meeting a lot of people. And that's another thing that a lot of players should take advantage of. In the time that you are in the NFL, you have to maximize your networking, and that is so vital to when you're done. And a lot of guys leave and they go back to where they're from. I'm not from this area, but I felt that I built a lot of relationships with a lot of great people that are a really good foot in the door. And if I went back to Chicago, or if I went down to New Orleans, they don't know who I am. They don't care. It's like, oh yeah, okay, whoever, so-and-so. But, here in New England, there's a big fan base. People still love the Patriots. There's still diehard Patriot fans. And I was in that era where we were winning a lot of football games. I played a lot of football here. And every single year, year in and year out, we won the division. I won 8 divisions, always in the AFC Championship game. Or it was either an AFC Championship game or a Super Bowl. So, I think the fans are really what bring, and when you're out of the game, bring you joy, because they bring you back to that time of, man, you were really good. Like, I really miss you on the field. I miss watching you play. And it brings me joy knowing that I was out there, playing my best for my own personal, well-being in my family, but also the people that were watching me to cheer me on.
That's really awesome to hear. So, Rob, I want to thank you. It's been so great talking to you today.
Thank you.
My last question for you. This is a hard hitter.
Uh-oh. Is it Bill or is it Tom? Is that the one?
None of them.
Okay. So, all right.
You're involved with
Yes.
You show up and make a wish events, which I really respect, because, it shows you care about the community. You're a mentor to the youth. You care a lot about younger people.
Yep.
What is your main piece of advice for younger people?
Well, this one could be tough, because I feel like right now, especially in this world of social media and not communicating person to person, I think my number one the biggest advice I can give somebody is don't live through your phone and other people. Don't look at other people and compare yourself to another person, or how many followers, or, oh, this person has this and I don't. Live your life and maximize your life based on what you want to do, and the goals and the dreams and the things that you like. We all have lifelong goals. We all have things that we want to do, but sometimes that's not the cards that we're dealt. Like for me, for example, I was a big guy and I was able to put on muscle and play in the NFL. Some people want to be NFL football players, but it just doesn't work out for whatever reason. They weren't tall enough, they weren't big enough. But you still have the ability to be special in whatever you want to do. So, if it's your dedication, it's how how much you work at something, and that it always pays off in the long run if you work hard. And I feel like young people today, they want the easy, quick success story. I want this. I don't get it right now. Oh, I'm mad about that. If you're young and you want to do something with your life, work hard, work hard, work hard. Put everything you got into it. If you don't put everything you have into it, there's two types of regret, right? And there's two types of pain, right? So this is an easy saying. So the pain of sacrifice is temporary, right? But the pain of regret lasts forever. So if you have to do something and you miss out and you feel like, dang it, but you're working for what you want to do, you'll never look back and say, man, I wish I would have done that. I wish. Because there's a lot of people that wish they would have done something else differently if I only could go back. But you can't go back. You can only move forward. And I talked about this earlier. Every single day, you win the day, you move on, you win the next day. You keep pushing forward, you learn, you grow. And when my kids are young, but I try to say, get off YouTube. And then there's nothing against YouTube. But I don't like it when they're watching somebody else do something that they can do. If you want to go do it. Learn it from that, but then go do it. So my biggest advice, don't compare yourself to everybody else. Be your own person, work hard, have a passion, have a goal, go after it, write things down. There's not enough person-to-person communication anymore. I like sitting down, having a conversation with somebody. And I think as we get farther into this world of technology, there's going to be less and less communication person to person. So that's all I got, man. Hope you had fun. Hope everyone else had fun. I had a great time. And hopefully we'll get you on the Dan and Ninko show. Come on, you ready, Chris?
I'm ready.
You got to have a beer, though.
I'm only 4 years old. Not too bad. But again, man, really appreciate your time. I learned a lot from you. And I think the biggest thing I took away from this is grind and dedication. If you want something, go get it. But you have to be willing to sacrifice stuff.
That's it.
And I'm ready to do that. And I'm excited. So thanks everyone for watching. You can find Rob. He's on social media. He's very active. You can find him on a podcast, like you said. Great content, reliable content, and they just have fun. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to have fun here as well. So very relatable content. Go check him out. And appreciate your time, everyone. So
see you guys
in the next episode.
Take care.
I'm a game changer.